The third Texas legislative special session has ended. Lawmakers approved new congressional district maps late Monday night. And here to talk about that is Ed Espinoza, president of Progress Texas, and former Texas GOP chairman James Dickey. Ed Espinoza, will these new maps survive the scrutiny of the courts?
Well, it's hard to say. It's going to go through a lot of different courts. If history is any indicator, it's going to go back and forth in court for a while. But what we do know is that the state of Texas has roughly 40% of the population are white people, 40% are Latinos. But the way these districts have been drawn is that white people are 60% of these districts. Latinos are 20%. When it comes to African Americans, they're about 12% of the population in Texas. They're the majority of districts in about 2%. So these are really disproportionate. So I think that this is going to be a drawn out process, much like it was 10 years ago. And it could take a while before we know the answer.
James Dickey, same question. Will these maps survive judicial scrutiny?
Well, it's much more likely these will survive judicial scrutiny than prior maps could, because the Supreme Court rightly came down and said that drawing maps is an inherently political activity and it's completely appropriate for an elected legislature to draw maps with political guidance. What's not allowed is to draw maps for explicit racial reasons, either way. And in fact, last time, the last seat that got knocked out of the drawing in the Texas House was because it was too racially favored for a minority. And so what we have is, yes, Texas is growing. Texas has a great diverse population. Okay. So no, we don't have districts that are drawn by race, and that's a good thing.
All righty. Ed Espinoza, let's say these maps go through. The Texas Tribune reporting that if that's the case, it's going to be very hard to turn Texas blue. Is that something that is discouraging or empowering for Democrats?
Well, remember, you can't gerrymander a statewide election. So long as there's still the ability for people to show up and vote statewide, you have a chance at that level. Now, flipping the legislature with these maps is going to be very difficult. These maps are drawn so that the party favorite could die and still win that election. But another thing to keep in mind is that voters are very frustrated right now. We've seen polling that shows the majority of voters don't think that Texas is headed in the right direction right now. And those voters are going to show up and have something to say in 2022. And that is at the top of the ticket. So, yes, the district level seats with these maps are difficult. But statewide, there's still voters still have a lot to say at the statewide level.
OK. Real quickly, James Dickey, different kind of question. Do you think there's going to be another special session?
It's hard to say. I think the majority of the work for this year has clearly gotten done. They did the very important work of doing the redistricting. They did the very important work of protecting our elections and getting rid of the suppression of the vote that was happening by Democrats who were changing the rules at the last minute, trying to favor their own voters against other voters. The critical things they needed to do, those things got done. It'll be interesting to see. The governor has the authority to do that or not.
All righty. We got to wrap it up. Ed, James, thank you both very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.